Everybody, this is first episode of Red Words Matter. It's going to get uncomfortable and slightly offensive, I imagine. I mean, how could it not be? If it's religious politics. It's going to be offensive, and, just think about this. If you get offended easily, then get a note from your mom. Or if something that I say makes you uncomfortable, pay attention to that. I was an atheist for the majority of my adult life, and longer than I have been a Christian. It's an interesting perspective of seasons, I guess, of life. So, here's the story. Here it is. Here's the story. A friend of mine and I, about a year ago, brainstormed this whole Red Words Matter thing. I made fun of people like me now. And God is a very messed up sense of humor. It's humbling because it's hard to not be ashamed of myself for being so selfish and arrogant. So a friend of mine and I started brainstorming Red Words Matter about a year ago, and intentionally for it to be edgy, for lack of a better word. You hear that? I'm going to leave that in the take. It's interesting. There's been a lot of spiritual retaliation against starting this project. And honestly, I didn't want to do it. I still am on the fence about doing it at all, but I don't feel like that it's something that is really my say. Something you said to me, you don't know if it'll affect anyone, but if it does one person, if one person gets something out of this, then it's worth it, I suppose. This is going to be a discussion about the teachings of Jesus. And in a lot of, I think reflecting on my story of coming into Christianity in a environment that a lot of people are getting what they say church hurt. There's an environment that is very, the modern day Christian environment. The church is can be a playground for the devil to instill fear. And as a boy, I've got a story to tell you about witchcraft and possession and a cult that was my first experience in church. And in a lot of ways, they helped me. They led me to realize that God is an actual thing. And if there, honestly, like if you had proof that God was real, if you had proof, if you knew, then would you ever go back? Even if it was the worst case scenario, like even if God demanded horrible things and made life terrible, would you still? Would you go back? Would you just concede to the higher power? As we get through this, I will slowly talk about my testimony and about the church hurt. And you know what? It's okay. That has to happen. I'm so thankful for it because it was crazy. So I'm doing I was doing several counseling. Come to think of it, several counseling sessions with these people for different things. And there's like a prayer-led spiritual encounter. I forget what they called it. Where you go into a room with your pastor. I went in with a pastor and his wife, and just basically prayed. but I was doing a lot of that kind of stuff, and part of it was like a couples counseling with my ex, and I was working at the car lot at the time, and our appointment was at like 11 o'clock in the morning, and so I get there. I think I was late actually. I was like 30 minutes late, maybe an hour late, okay, which is not typical of me. But I walk in and like they're sitting there with her, like it was husband and wife that ran the church, and they're sitting there with her, and like they'd been in there talking for an hour, like they'd already started the session with her there, which later I found out is really ethically like the code of ethics as far as counseling and psychiatry. That is a big no. That is a big no. So, just let you know, if you ever watch this, don't do that shit. And but anyways, I went in and they accused me of being demon possessed, and this was within like, I still wasn't sure about God yet. Like I wasn't committed, and I walked into that shit, and I mean, it's kind of comical now to think about it, but like they said that I was like demon possessed, like dwell within. And it was like a 4-hour long session, and I absolutely, I broke down, man. Like it crushed me. And they told me I was demon possessed. They told me that I had been practicing witchcraft in secret. Okay. I was crying, and they said that I was just crying because I was a narcissist and I wanted their sympathy. I'll have to read. I wrote a 10-page letter to them, and I need to go as we go along with the podcast. I'll break that out and talk about it, because I was very specific in detailing a lot of really strange things. And so yeah, that was when I left there that day at like 3 o'clock. My ex and I were living together, and they had convinced her to not allow me to come home. Like I could go get what I could get, and I had to leave immediately, and that we weren't to speak for a year. And she was like convinced of it. And I literally went from not really having a clue what, I was left work to go to a counseling session with some people that I trusted, that I trusted my entire life, on at that point. And that's what happened. When I met the pastor, and to be honest, I believe that he is just really lost. Well, for conversation's sake, we'll call him Sam. Okay. Sam, and this is how the force of evil works. Okay. Sam's wife, we'll call her Jill, is an integral part of the ministry of their church. She has a supernatural ability to read your mail. Like, she will come up to you and tell you things about your life, about you, that is not possible for anyone to know. She knows it. It's unbelievable. In that is the trickery of what that force of evil is. It's like watching a miracle. It's like, it's divine. It feels divine, because you can say that that's discernment. That's what I was told. That's what she told me. Her spiritual gift is discernment, and she knows. And like she did, it was bizarre and very uncomfortable, strange. Okay, so already there's a advantage. You don't feel it because it's like it's with love. Like, I want to say this to you, and I want to help you. Let's pray. Come closer. Let me tell you. And so Sam, that's his wife. He doesn't see that. He doesn't see how he's the puppet, basically, of this force of evil. Because no one, no Christian that I know, no word in the gospel, Jesus does not, he would not use fear, control, fear. He would not use fear for anything. And during the course of that session, there was about a minute or so where Jill, she looked at me and said, if we got on your computer right now, what would we find? And like I always had when I was working, there at the lot, I always had my computer with me. So I had it, and I remember reaching down in my bag, to get it out and be like, well, here, you can look at it. And she's like, well, what if we went to your office and looked on that computer? What would we find? I remember being like, well, I work at a used car lot, so there's going to be some inappropriate language, that's what I was thinking. And I was like, we can go. Like, I'm a manager. I have a key. Let's go. Even if it's deleted, Sam worked for Microsoft, and he can find it even if it's been deleted. And so I was like, okay, so what? I can do that too. In my mind, I'm like, I don't what does that have to do? I can recover a hard drive. And so a few days later, it dawned on me that is fear. That tactic right there alone is, I'm gonna use fear to try to get you to admit to something. And that alone is the absence of God. And what he is doing is, he doesn't understand. If anybody else would have been, if I would have been a year prior in my life, if that would have happened to me, I would not be sitting here talking to you. I would not be on this earth. I would have, maybe not, I don't know what would happen to me. I never thought of myself ever to be suicidal per se. It may have been a self-destruct, because that was rock bottom. That was fucking rock bottom for me. It was horrible. Fortunately, I had a good job. I was able to stay in some Airbnbs a couple of weeks until I found a house to rent, downtown in a nice neighborhood. And after I lost everything after that, after I lost everything and I submitted to God's will, and just was like, look, I can't try to manage this anymore. This is crazy. This is getting crazy. I don't understand. I'm not going to be the master of my journey anymore. Because look where it got me. So that's kind of where it started for me. And then there's this long period, it's still now, that the devil showed up, and he really miscalculated that with me, because it solidified all of that. I'm so thankful for solidified my faith. Jesus said that he did not come here to this world to bring peace. Specifically, he did not come to bring peace. He came to bring a sword. He came to bring a sword to this world. Fear. Stay tuned. I'm going to try to crank out, try to get some guests. I think I'm going to have some guests join me and talk about some real stuff. Talk about real Christians. Talk about Yeshua. Talk about what actually happened. What it means. Because it ain't like what I heard on Sunday morning. It's not my experience. And what I read either.